Dear students, in the previous class, we had discussed about the solubility of gases in liquids, Henry's law, and also effect of pressure on solubility of gases in liquids. Now let us recall once again the Henry's law. So Henry's law, how effect of pressure on solubility of gases in liquid. How effect of pressure on solubility of gases in liquids, Henry's law. So solubility of gases in liquids increases with increase of pressure. And what is the statement of Henry's law? The partial pressure of gas in vapor phase is directly proportional to mole fraction of that gas in solution. The partial pressure of gas in vapor phase is directly proportional to mole fraction of that gas in solution. That is, P is directly proportional to X. That implies P is equal to Kh into X. So this is the mathematical relation of Henry's law, where Kh is Henry's constant. Unit is bar or atmosphere. Where Kh is Henry's constant, unit is bar or atmosphere. Now we will discuss how effect of temperature on solubility of gases on liquids. Effect of temperature on solubility of gases in liquids. If a gas is dissolved in a suitable solvent, we get a gaseous solution. And this process, there is a dynamic equilibrium exists between the reactants and products. These are the reactants, it is the product. There is existence of a dynamic equilibrium. When a gas is dissolved in suitable liquid or suitable solvent, the dissolution process is exothermic. So exothermic means, according to thermodynamics, exothermic means the change in enthalpy is negative. The change in enthalpy is negative. So heat is liberated, energy is liberated in the form of heat, since it is an exothermic reaction. So effect of temperature on this equilibrium is explained with the help of Le Chatelier principle. Explained with the help of Le Chatelier principle. Since dynamic equilibrium is there, we can apply the Le Chatelier principle. So according to Le Chatelier principle, if any external factors influences the equilibrium, if any external factors influence the equilibrium, we can nullify that changes. So here clearly, in the product side, energy is liberated in the form of heat. In the product side, energy is liberated in the form of heat. If temperature increases, what happens? So according to Le Chatelier principle, if temperature increases, the backward reaction is favorable. If temperature increases, the backward reaction is favorable, which means that if temperature increases, the solubility of gases in liquids decreases because backward reaction. Forward reaction is solubility. Forward reaction is solubility. But if temperature increases, which one is favorable? Backward reaction is favorable. That is, reactants are favorable. So if temperature increases, what happens to the solubility? If temperature increases, solubility of gases in liquids decreases. If temperature increases, solubility of gases in liquids decreases according to Le Chatelier principle, since the dissolution process is exothermic. For example, if we can study the dissolution of nitrogen gas in water, dissolution of nitrogen gas in water at two different temperatures. So at 293 Kelvin temperature, the value of Henry's constant Kh is 76.48 bar. At 303 Kelvin, the value of Kh, Henry's constant, is 88.48. So at which temperature nitrogen gas is more soluble? At 293 Kelvin temperature, nitrogen gas is more soluble. Because as temperature increases, solubility of gases in liquids decreases. So nitrogen gas in water is more soluble at 293 Kelvin temperature because compared to 303 Kelvin, 293 Kelvin is lower value. So at 293 Kelvin, nitrogen gas is more soluble. So when you can compare the KH values of these two, what is the conclusion? You understand? At lower temperature, nitrogen gas is more soluble. So compared to 303 Kelvin temperature, 203 Kelvin temperature has lower value of KH. Lower value of KH, which means that lower the value of KH, higher will be solubility of gases in liquids. Lower the value of KH, higher will be the solubility of gases in liquids. That is, KH is inversely proportional to solubility. KH is inversely proportional to solubility of gases in liquids. Lower the value of KH, higher will be the solubility of gases in liquids. So KH is inversely related to solubility of gases in liquids. Now let us discuss the important applications of Henry's law. So very first application of Henry's law is to increase the solubility of carbon dioxide gas in soft drinks and soda water. The bottle is sealed at high pressure. Since the solubility of gases, according to Henry's law, solubility of gases is directly proportional to pressure. So therefore, to increase the solubility of carbon dioxide gas in soft drinks and soda water, the bottle is sealed at high pressure. So by increasing the pressure, the carbon dioxide gas is completely soluble in soda water and soft drinks. But what happens? You can open the bottle. What happens if you can open the bottle cap? The pressure is decreases. So pressure decreases. Pressure decreases means solubility is also decreases. So the solubility of carbon dioxide is decreases, then it comes out as bubbles. You can observe in daily life. So you can open the bottle of soft drinks or cool drinks. The pressure decreases, then carbon dioxide bubbles are clearly observed in the bottle. The carbon dioxide bubbles are coming out from bottom to top due to decrease in solubility. If pressure decreases, solubility is also decreases. That carbon dioxide gas released as bubbles from bottom to top in the bottle. And another important application of Henry's law is sea divers or scuba divers. Sea divers or scuba divers can bring the oxygen cylinders. Along with them, they can bring oxygen cylinders and goes into the depth of the sea. Whenever they goes into depth of the sea, what happens? At the deepest of the sea, pressure is too high. It is high pressure. At the depth of the sea, whenever the scuba divers or sea divers goes into the depth of the sea, pressure will be very high. So according to Henry's law, if pressure increases, what happens? The solubility is also increases. So the solubility of gases in the blood. particularly nitrogen gas. In the oxygen cylinder, mixture of oxygen and nitrogen gases. In the oxygen cylinder, because nitrogen is the most abundant element available in the atmosphere. Nitrogen is the most abundant element available in the atmosphere. So when in the depth of the sea, pressure increases, solubility of nitrogen and oxygen gases in the blood increases. Whenever the sea diver comes to the surface of that, sea divers comes to the surface of that, what happens? At the surface of that comes to too rapidly surface of that, pressure decreases. Pressure decreases, solubility of gases also decreases. So nitrogen gas, due to the decrease in solubility, the nitrogen gas appeared as bubbles. Pressure decreases, solubility of gases decreases, the nitrogen gas released as bubbles. So already you had seen this application. What happens when bottle of soft drinks or cool drinks or soda water open? The carbon dioxide gas, due to decrease in pressure, the carbon dioxide gas appears as bubble. Very similarly here also, when the sea divers are come to surface of that, the pressure decreases, the nitrogen gas released as bubbles. But here this situation is called bends. It is very painful situation. It is very painful situation because these nitrogen bubbles can restrict the flow of blood to the organs. These nitrogen bubbles can restrict the flow of blood into particular organs. Ante free flow of blood towards the particular organs. They can restrict the flow of blood cells like plasma or red blood cells or white blood cells towards a particular organ. That is called a painful situation. Those are called bends. So to prevent this situation, we can use artificial breathing mixture. To prevent this situation, we can use artificial breathing mixtures. So the artificial breathing mixture is containing helium gas, oxygen gas and nitrogen gas. So the oxygen cylinder tanks containing artificial breathing mixture, which is a mixture of helium gas, oxygen gas and nitrogen gas. So helium gas has 11.7% by volume, oxygen has 36.2% by volume, nitrogen has 56.7% by volume. 36.1%, 56.2%. So in the artificial breathing mixture, helium has 11.7% by volume, oxygen has 32.1% by volume, nitrogen has 56.2% by volume. So why we can use helium in this diving apparatus or scuba divers or sea divers? Why helium is used in this diving apparatus? In addition to oxygen and nitrogen gas, due to its very low solubility in blood. So helium has low solubility in blood. Compared to nitrogen, helium has 5 times low solubility in blood. So due to the low solubility, if sea divers comes to the surface of earth, if pressure, even though pressure decreases, there is no formation of bubbles because due to its low solubility in the blood. So due to the low solubility of blood, helium is used in the diving apparatus along with oxygen and nitrogen gas. And third one is mountaineers are also carry oxygen cylinders. Mountaineers are also carry oxygen cylinders. Because at high altitudes the atmospheric pressure is low. If pressure is low, solubility of oxygen in the blood is also low, which will cause a condition anoxia. Which will cause a condition anoxia. Therefore, mountaineers can carry oxygen cylinders to prevent that situation, to prevent that anoxia situation. Now, let us discuss vapor pressure of liquid solutions. Vapor pressure of liquid solutions. Here, the solvent is liquid. Vapor pressure of liquid solutions, binary solutions. Binary solutions means there are two components. Solvent is liquid. Here we can discuss two systems. One is vapor pressure of liquid solutions, and second one is vapor pressure of solid liquid solutions. Vapor pressure of liquid solutions and vapor pressure of solid liquid solutions. Before going to discuss about these two systems, what is vapor pressure? What is vapor pressure? For example, take a closed vessel. In this closed vessel, there is 10 ml of diethyl ether. So this is liquid phase. 10 ml of diethyl ether. You know that diethyl ether is an important solvent used in the laboratory. So it is highly volatile. Diethyl ether is an important reagent used as solvent in the laboratory. Highly volatile because its boiling point is room temperature. The boiling point of diethyl ether is 27 degrees centigrade. So that is, it is equal to room temperature. If you can open the bottle cap, it will easily vaporizes. So 10 ml of diethyl ether is filled in this closed vessel. Then what happens after some time? So some of the ether molecules goes into vapor state. Some of the, because it is highly volatile, they can easily goes into vapor state. Room temperature is the boiling point. They can easily goes into gaseous phase or vapor phase. So some of the either liquid molecules goes into vapor phase. This is vapor phase. After 1 minute, after 5 minutes, some more either molecules goes into gaseous phase or vapor phase. After 10 minutes, 10 molecules, 20, 40 molecules. After 10 minutes, some more gaseous, some more either liquid molecules goes into vapor state. After that, what happens? So after the 10 minutes, for suppose after the 10 minutes, there exists a equilibrium between the liquid and vapor phase. After the 10 minutes, there exists an equilibrium between the vapor phase and the liquid phase. So existence of equilibrium between liquid and vapor. So that is rate of evaporation. This is evaporation. And it is condensation. The rate of evaporation is equal to rate of condensation. At the equilibrium, the rate of evaporation, for example, if 10 molecules goes into vapor state and Another 10 molecules are again returned back to liquid phase. So both are equal. So rate of evaporation is equal to rate of condensation at this dynamic equilibrium. So at this stage we can define the vapor pressure. At this stage we can define the vapor pressure. So what is vapor pressure? Vapor pressure is the pressure exerted by vapors over the surface of liquid at equilibrium is known as vapor pressure. The pressure exerted by these vapors, the pressure exerted by these vapors over the surface of the liquid at equilibrium. We can define this is at equilibrium only. So the pressure exerted by vapors over the surface of the liquid is known as vapor pressure. You know that kinetic molecular theory of gases. According to kinetic molecular theory of gases, the gaseous molecules, all these are gaseous molecules, randomly move in all possible directions. The gaseous molecules randomly move in all possible directions. When they can randomly move in all possible directions, they can collide with each other. These gaseous molecules collide with each other and also collide with walls of the containers. And also collide with walls of the container. They can exert the pressure. Of course, in this situation, that pressure is called vapor pressure. The gaseous molecules randomly move in all possible directions, collide with each other and collide with the walls of the container, thereby exert that pressure. That pressure here at this equilibrium is known as vapor pressure. So what is vapor pressure? The pressure exerted by these vapors of the liquid over the surface at equilibrium is known as vapor pressure. Then what is partial vapor pressure? For example, if two volatile liquids are taken in a closed vessel, two volatile liquids, benzene plus toluene. If two volatile liquids are taken in a closed vessel, so the pressure, the vapor pressure exerted by each component is known as partial vapor pressure. So benzene liquid molecules goes into vapor state and toluene molecules also goes into vapor state. Because both are volatile liquids, easily goes into the vapor state. So some of the vapor gaseous molecules are benzene and some of the gaseous molecules are toluene. So the individual pressure, the individual vapor pressure exerted by these gaseous molecules is known as partial vapor pressure. Individual vapor pressure exerted by molecules in a mixture of volatile liquids is known as partial vapor pressure. The vapor pressure exerted by each component. The vapor pressure exerted by each volatile component in a mixture of volatile liquids is known as partial vapor pressure. So these two are very important terms to understand the Raoult's law concept. Now we are going to discuss about vapor pressure of binary solutions. So first system is vapor pressure of liquid in liquid solutions. So here both solute and solvent are volatile liquids. Both solute and solvents are volatile liquids. So binary solution containing two volatile liquids. For example, N-hexane and benzene. N-hexane and benzene both are volatile liquids. Consider a binary solution containing two components. Binary means two components. One is N-hexane, another one is benzene. Both are volatile. And the partial vapor pressure of N-hexane is P1 and partial vapor pressure of benzene is P2. The partial vapor pressure of N-hexane is P1. The partial vapor pressure, because it is a mixture, therefore we can call it as partial vapor pressure. So partial vapor pressure of one component, that is N-hexane, is P1. Partial vapor pressure of benzene is P2. Then Raoults, in the scientist Raoult in 1886 gave a quantitative relationship between partial vapor pressure and their mole fractions. The scientist Raoult in 1886 gave a quantitative relationship between partial vapor pressures and mole fractions of the components in solution. Two components are there. One is N-hexane and benzene. This is liquid phase, vapor phase. N-hexane and benzene. And these are the N-hexane vapor phase molecules and these are benzene vapor phase molecules. And the pressure exerted by N-hexane molecules is P1 and the vapor pressure exerted by N-hexane molecules is P1. The vapor pressure exerted by benzene molecules is P2. Those are partial vapor pressure because mixture is there. Those are partial vapor pressure. So P1 and P2 are partial vapor pressures. Partial vapor pressures of each components. And P01 and P02 are vapor pressures of pure solvents. P01 and P02 are vapor pressures of pure solvent, that is benzene and N-hexane. If pure solvent is taken, N-hexane pure solvent vapor pressure is P01, benzene pure solvent vapor pressure is P02. Then according to Raoult's law, so what is the statement of Raoult's law? For two volatile liquids, liquid in liquid, here I would like to define the Raoult's law for two volatile liquids only. Two volatile liquids. So what is the statement of Raoult's law? The partial vapor pressure of each component is directly proportional to mole fraction of that component in solution. So what is the statement of Raoult's law for two volatile? These two are volatile liquids. They can easily goes into the vapor state. So what is the statement of Raoult's law? The partial vapor pressure of each component is directly proportional to mole fraction of the components in solution. So P1 and P2 are partial vapor pressures and X1 and X2 are mole fractions. X1 is mole fraction of N-hexane, X2 is mole fraction of benzene. So these are partial vapor pressures, these are mole fractions. So according to what is the statement of Henry's law? Partial vapor pressure of each component. Partial vapor pressure of each volatile component is directly proportional to mole fraction of the component in solution. So x1 and x2 are mole fractions in liquid phase. So these partial vapor pressures are directly proportional to the mole fraction of components in vapor phase. This is the statement of Raoult's law for two volatile liquids. Here we have taken N-hexane and benzene as volatile liquids because they can easily goes into the vapor state. So for first component, partial vapor pressure of P1. Partial vapor pressure of first component is P1. It is directly proportional to mole fraction of that component. That is, P1 is directly proportional to x1. Simple as P1 is equal to P01 into x1. Partial vapor pressure of first component is directly proportional to mole fraction of that component. P1 is directly proportional to x1. So remove proportionality, we can introduce a proportionality constant, that is P01. So vapor pressure of pure solvent, 0 means pure. So that implies P1 is equal to P01 into x1. Similarly, partial pressure of second component is directly proportional to mole fraction of second component. P2 is directly proportional to x2. That implies P2 is equal to P02 into x2. So P1 is equal to P01 into x1. For the second component, partial vapor pressure, P2 is equal to P02 into x2, where P01 and P02 are vapor pressures of pure solvents. P01 and P02 are vapor pressures of pure solvents. But according to Dalton's law, the total pressure, according to Dalton's law, in a mixture of non-reacting gases, the total pressure is equal to sum of the partial pressures. According to Dalton's law, the total pressure is equal to sum of the partial pressures. So from equation 1 and 2, from equations 1 and 2, P1 is P01 into x1, P2 is P02 into x2. So the total pressure. But we know that sum of the mole fractions is always equal to unity. Sum of the mole fractions is always equal to unity. So in this mathematical expression, you can eliminate one mole fraction, one component mole fraction. Or suppose x1 is equal to 1 minus x2. Sum of the mole fractions is always equal to unity. x1 plus x2 is equal to 1. x1 is equal to 1 minus x2. You can substitute in place of x1 1 minus x2, then we get, so total pressure is equal to P01 into 1 minus x2 plus P02 into x2. In place of x1, substitute 1 minus x2. So that implies total pressure is equal to P01 minus P01 x2 plus P02 into x2. Expand this one. If you can expand this one, P01 minus P01 into x2 plus P02 into x2. That implies P total is equal to P01 plus, you can common x2 from both these terms, common x2, then we get P02 minus P01. So this is the final mathematical expression of Raoult's law. P total is equal to P01 plus x2 into P02 minus P01. So this equation represents vapor pressure, how the vapor pressure varies with the mole fractions and vapor pressure of pure solvents. So in this expression there is mole fraction and vapor pressure of pure solvents are there. So this expression, what is the significance of this mathematical expression? How vapor pressure linearly varies with mole fraction and vapor pressure of pure solvents. So this is the total pressure. How it varies with mole fraction and vapor pressure of pure solvent. So this is clearly explained by graph only. If you can plot along y-axis vapor pressure, along x-axis mole fraction. If we can plot a graph, vapor pressure versus mole fraction graph. Along y-axis, what is the coordinate? Vapor pressure. Along x-axis, mole fraction. So this is the mole fraction, varies from 0 to 1, and the graph is vapor pressure versus mole fraction. The mole fraction varies linearly from 0 to 1. So here, vapor pressure of pure solvent. Straight line, vapor pressure versus mole fraction plan. The vapor pressure linearly varies with the mole fraction, and this is the vapor pressure of pure solvent. Now let us discuss the vapor pressure of solid in liquid solutions. So here, solute is a non-volatile solid. Solute is a non-volatile solid. Solvent is volatile liquid. Solute is a non-volatile solid and a solvent is a volatile liquid. What happens the vapor pressure of solution when a non-volatile solid is soluble in volatile liquid? When a non-volatile solid is dissolved in volatile liquid, what happens the vapor pressure of the solution? So for this, we can experiment. So this is pure solvent. So taken a pure solvent in a closed vessel. It is a volatile. This is the liquid phase. Gaseous phase. So take a pure solvent, a volatile solvent in a closed vessel. So it is a liquid phase. So since it is volatile, it is the liquid molecules are easily goes into the vapor state. So this is the gaseous phase or vapor phase. And in the second beaker, for example, a sodium chloride particles are soluble in water. So here pure solvent is, for suppose, the pure solvent is a water. If sodium chloride particles are soluble in water, sodium chloride is non-volatile. Sodium chloride is non-volatile solid. So if sodium chloride non-volatile solid is dissolved in a volatile solvent, water, what happens? The vapor pressure. So in case of pure solvent, so all these Evaporation is a surface phenomenon. Evaporation is surface phenomenon. In case of pure solvent, these surface liquid water molecules are directly goes into the vapor state. After that, the below layer liquid water molecules can occupy this one and again goes into the vapor state. So evaporation is surface phenomenon. Whenever a non-volatile solute is dissolved in volatile liquid or volatile solvent, so in this solution, so these are liquid molecules, liquid water molecules, and these dots are non-volatile solid molecules. So these are liquid water molecules, dots are non-volatile solid molecules, sodium chloride molecules. So whenever a non-volatile solute is dissolved in the solvent, what happens? The vapor pressure of the solution. Since evaporation is a surface phenomena, so some of the non-volatile solute particles can black the surface. These non-volatile solute particles can black the surface, reducing the evaporation phenomenon. Here all are liquid molecules. So the surface liquid molecules are directly goes into the vapor state. But here some of the non-volatile solid particles can black the surface area, reducing the number of molecules escaping from liquid to vapor phase. For example, for suppose here if 20 molecules at a particular temperature, 20 molecules are goes into vapor state, they can exert the pressure 10 mm of AC. Water is taken 100 ml water, 100 ml of water. 100 ml of water taken, these water molecules are goes into vapor state, they can exert the vapor pressure 10 mm of AC. But whenever you can dissolve 5 gram of sodium chloride in 100 ml of water, 5 gram of sodium chloride is dissolved in 100 ml of water, some of the non-volatile solid particles can black the surface area. So number of water molecules goes into vapor state decreases, which means that the vapor pressure also decreases. So here the vapor pressure is 5 mm of AC. The vapor pressure of solution is 5 mm of AC. So which means that what happens when a non-volatile solid is dissolved in volatile liquid? The vapor pressure of solution decreases. When a non-volatile solid is dissolved in the solvent, the vapor pressure of the solution decreases. So initially for pure solvent, what is the vapor pressure? Pure solvent vapor pressure is 10 mm of AC. Pure solvent vapor pressure is 10 mm of AC. If sodium chloride is dissolved in the water, what is the vapor pressure of solution? 5 mm of AC. Vapor pressure of what happens? The vapor pressure of solution decreases compared to vapor pressure of pure solvent, because evaporation is a surface phenomenon. Whenever a non-volatile solute is dissolved in the solvent, some of the solid particles can black the surface area. So they can prevent the number of liquid molecules goes into vapor state. So thereby reducing the vapor pressure. Therefore, when a non-volatile solute is dissolved in the solvent or liquid, the vapor pressure of the solution is decreases. And the decrease in vapor pressure is also called lowering of vapor pressure. So the decrease of vapor pressure is known as lowering of vapor pressure. Here lowering of vapor pressure is equal to vapor pressure of pure solvent. So lowering of vapor pressure is vapor pressure of pure solvent minus vapor pressure of solution. If 5 grams of sodium chloride is dissolved in 100 ml of water, how much amount of vapor pressure is decreases? 5 mm of Hg. For pure solvent, 10 mm of Hg. When 5 gram of sodium chloride is dissolved, how much vapor pressure is reduced? 5 mm of Hg. Which means that what is the lowering of vapor pressure? 5 mm of Hg. 10 minus 5 mm of Hg. So the lowering of vapor pressure is vapor pressure of pure solvent minus vapor pressure of solution. Vapor pressure of pure solvent, that is 10 mm of Hg. Vapor pressure of solution, 5 mm of Hg. So 10 minus 5 is 5 mm of Hg. This is the lowering of vapor pressure. So very important conclusion is what happens when a non-volatile solute is added to volatile solvent? The vapor pressure of the solution decreases. So the decrease in vapor pressure is known as lowering of vapor pressure. What is lowering of vapor pressure? Vapor pressure of pure solvent minus vapor pressure of solution.